Buenos días. Justice is a religious obligation as well as a moral obligation. So that's part of this being and doing that goes together. We are, unfortunately to a certain extent, fortunately in other ways, children of the Enlightenment, in which the attempt was to abstract thinking and knowing from material reality. But we know that that is not true. There's a unity between what we know, who we are, what we do. And when we think about discipleship, we have to keep this in mind. In deciding whether you are an admirer of Jesus or a disciple of Jesus, you need to ask yourself, what would I do differently or would not do differently if I was not a disciple of Jesus? At times when we ask the question in the negative, it helps us to clarify the affirmative. How would my life change if I decided that I am not a disciple of Jesus, but just an admirer? Or how could it change if instead of an admirer, I would now claim that I am a disciple? I suspect that it would take us a while to come up with the answers, because we almost take for granted, oh yeah, I'm a disciple. And one of the things that I really always insist with my students and everywhere where I lecture is the need we have to be intentional about who we are and what we do. Now, intentionality. I have several little sayings sticked all around my computer screen. But one of my favorite ones comes from Marcona, and she said, I will not die an unlived life. So we have to live with intentionality so we do not die an unlived life. Of Jesus, but we are disciples of Jesus. What list would we come up with of things we would do that we can say, hey, look at what I do, and that would certify that you are a disciple of Jesus? And again, I'm saying do, which means that you have to be. But I don't want you to say, well, I'll be generous. But I want to know, how are you going to practice the virtue of generosity very explicitly? Virtues are not abstractions, they are habitual practices. So the list have to be of what would we do. To decide on this list, I suggest that you start by looking at the needs of the people around you, those you work with, your church, your community, your family. But you also have to engage in the struggles for justice of those in the community whose society has cast aside, with whom society has broken bonds of sisterliness and brotherliness. How should I engage in struggles for justice in my community, in my church, in this country, in the world? I hope you noticed a little sleight of hand that I just made. Following the answers Jesus gave here, I have laid down a demand for us. There are no ifs and buts. We have to engage in practices of justice if we claim to be disciples of Jesus.